don't know if you've been asked, you probably have, but I wonder what the origin of the band name was about. It's a really unoriginal thing, but...
Yeah. Well, should I tell you the true story, or should I make one up? I'll let you decide.
Do you want a cigarette, by the way?
No, I don't smoke.
Okay. Yeah.
No, go ahead and smoke it. Well, the true story is that there was no band. It didn't exist. And I was telling people that I wanted to start a band, and at one time I was making a joke or something, and I said something about Smashing Pumpkins, and I thought, oh, that would be a good band name. So then when I would tell people I was forming a band, or I wanted to form a band, people would say, oh, well, what's going to be the name of it? And I would just say Smashing Pumpkins. This is like a joke. And then...
it kind of makes people laugh, actually, people who haven't heard.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And most people don't get the whole... Because the whole point of it is supposed to be like the Smashing Pumpkins, like, ta-da.
Yeah.
Not smashing. Everyone else thinks of it that way. So in the next album, I think we're going to write that just to fuck everyone up. But anyway, so I would just tell people in passing, and then started to form the band, and then people would come back up and say, oh, how's your band, the Smashing Pumpkins? And then people were remembering, and I thought, well, that's good enough for me. And then you just don't, when you're starting a band, you just don't think that for the next 5 years you're going to have to deal with,
you're going to be stuck with it.
Why the fuck? Because you got this stupid name, you know?
It's something that's really stood out, just, you know.
Well, that was the other reason I decided to keep it, as I could, you know, I mean, if you named yourself after any insect or any, there's not many names that you could name yourself that either don't sound like a band name, or haven't, you know, so there's like, there was something about it that was at least enough of a band name sound, and then something that didn't sound like anything else, so.
It's got a happy sound. Yeah, I played bass in a band last year, and they called themselves Kill David. I just couldn't stick with the name for a start.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, right off the top of the band, there still is a band called Head of David.
Yeah, and then there's Killing Joke. You know, so I just
right, see what I mean?
Come
so
on.
How many bands are there with, there's a band Smashing Orange, but...
Smashing Pumpkins, no. How did you go at Reading? Because I got down there on a Sunday.
Not good.
I was going to say, is the British weather put you off our country for life?
Not good.
What was
definitely like one of the biggest disappointments in my life.
Yeah. I think, like, PJ Harvey had a really bad time at Glastonbury. And, you know, a lot of festivals can sort of be either good or just really shit.
I mean, this is no one's fault, but, you know, first of all, you have the pressure playing in front of so many people. And when 50,000 people talk, you can definitely notice. So there's that pressure to really be good. And then, you know, you don't get a sound check. You're walking on a big, humongous stage. You have people working there who don't normally work. Your stuff, instead of usually being like 10 feet away, is 20 feet away, so it makes it sound different. That's nobody's fault, but if you get used to working under similar conditions, and then all of a sudden you're thrown to the dogs.
Is it your first festival?
No, we played some others, and we had problems there too. So.
Is that in the States?
No, we played a couple festivals in Belgium.
Oh, right.
So.
Yeah, the whole thing is... I think it's sad, though, because the press makes so much of these festivals, and to be honest, the 50,000 kids that are standing there, usually there to have a good time.
Well,
like, Mudhoney were really slated, and I was like, hang on, everyone enjoyed Mudhoney.
I mean, that's the thing that kind of made me mad, is we didn't play really well, but to call us, the word that was used was negligible, I think is completely unfair. I thought we did well under the circumstances, and considering we're a band that's like, you know, from nothing, from nowhere. We're not on some, sub pop bands have an advantage, and you know, we're not on a major label here, and all these other things, and it's like we've done pretty well considering.
I think there's such a fine line between, you know, what a lot of people believe the journalists and how much the journalists like actually trying to further their careers. You know, once an editor said to me, "You've got to either completely slate a band or like them. You can't stand on the fence."
Right.
And that seems really unfair to
well, and
in some cases.
It's like somebody asked me the other day about the difference between like public success and critical success.
Yeah.
And we've never had a problem like playing and having people enjoy our music and enjoying our shows. we're not the type of band that people associate with bad live performances or bad records. And I mean, considering the circumstances, but there's always been this really weird kind of like lack of critical support, you know, from the so-called, you know, people in the know.
I think they're looking for some sort of movement, you know, and if they don't find
I would definitely agree with that, and I think because we belong to no movement, and we've always put ourselves in that position. And I mean, the closest comparison I can make in recent times was, you know, when Jane's Addiction was a fairly big band, or just becoming a big band, you could find almost no press on them. You found no one writing that they were, but yet a year later they were headlining Lollapalooza. They were definitely the reason the thing was selling out.
It's usually sort of
Humongous band, a band that people completely loved, blew everybody's mind. But yet, and you know, and the thing is 20 years from now, you'll be reading people who said, I saw them, and you know, and that's just how it goes. And I think it was probably that way for like the Velvet Underground and other bands like that. So.
Yeah, I think there's quite a difference. I don't know. I think there's quite a difference between the fanzines and the underground actual sort of journalism world.
I find the fanzines to be a lot more honest and not as slanted. I mean,
I think they're directed really at the same age group of the fans who actually enjoy the music, rather than.
Yeah, I mean that's the funny thing about fanzines. You're either praised or completely slagged, but it also depends on whoever's writing the fanzine and what their personal opinion is, because they surround themselves with people with similar opinions. I don't know. It's you can cry about it and wish that everybody liked you, but it's like the same thing with life. I mean, I've always been the type of person that people either hated or liked, and it doesn't really surprise me.
That's okay. At least people don't stand on the fence and.
Well, that's what my mom says.
How much of the band? I mean, do you get to see families, or do you keep up with families?
Oh yeah, it's just, you know, you're home so little. It really it's hard to explain, but it's like being in the circus or something, and then going over to your mom's for dinner, and your mom goes, "Oh, so how's the circus?" It's like you can't even explain.
It's just got no conception of what you're doing.
I mean, someone from the outside has a basic conception of what being in a rock band is like, but no one has any conception of just the constant, you know, sex, drugs, rock and roll, stupidity, insults. You just can't explain it. It was really funny because I went to go see U2, you know, which in Chicago would attract a pretty normal audience.
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen them for a long time, and I wanted to go. So I ran into this girl I'd gone to high school with, and I'd known through school years for like 7 or 8 years. And I saw her, and she says, "Oh, what have you been doing?" And I said, "Well, you know, I play in this band." She's like, "Oh yeah, I saw you in the newspaper." And then I just tried to start explaining to her, to someone who has no idea of the band or alternative music, or you know, to them, alternative music is not even a category. Someone like that, and I just realized it was completely hopeless. There was no way to explain to this person, like, what my life or what this is all about. I mean, this is subculture.
So I was up in Edinburgh because I do drama. I study drama at the university, so most of my friends up there were kind of into acting and stuff, and I'm mainly on a sort of passing level. No idea about music really, and so, you know, they just, I don't know, they just can't conceive of.
Yeah, it's like you can't even begin to explain to someone
how important it is to other people. It's weird.
And how it's so tied in. It's culturally tied in too. It's not something that you put on when you take a bath. You know, it becomes part of your existence.
You get kind of hooked on it, and I was. Did you guys have any? I mean, did you go to college or university?
I didn't go to college. No.
Did you have any like previous occupations, as Mickey put it?
Well,
do you just kind of get?
I've only had 2 jobs ever, besides being in the band. I used to deliver pizzas. That was one of them.
On a motorbike.
And that was kind of a cool job because I had that when I was in high school, and in between delivering pizzas, I would sit in the back and practice.
Well, smart. That's all right.
So I practiced, 4 or 5 hours a day and worked. It drove me crazy, but. And then later on, I worked in a record store for a long time, which was really crucial too, in kind of a strange way, just because
That would be really useful, actually.
Well, and it wasn't and the funny thing is it wasn't a new music store, it wasn't but like a dusty, old. So I came across all these
That's
singles,
excellent, yeah.
and I was exposed to a lot of music that I didn't really know.
Well, have you heard of the Record and Tape Exchange in London? It's on Portobello Road. Yeah, they've got like huge archives of stuff.
Right, and I mean, to have access to that and to begin to find different genres of music and why you like it, Or maybe that's, I mean, we've been accused of being, having a strange historical perspective, but it has a lot to do with it just because I had access to all that music. And most people who are poor aren't going to go and buy every, James Brown record or something, But
yeah,
I could get them.
Just sort of, I can imagine being influenced by the times, by the alternative music of their time.
Well, it's like somewhat of the criticism about the UK is that, a lot of those shoegazer bands and stuff,
Oh, no.
their history begins with My Bloody Valentine and the Cocteau Twins.
Yeah. And
It
they
has
can't
no.
really see any further than what's being thrown at them. Oh, yeah. That's odd.
I don't know. Sometimes I think my historical perspective is, it's almost like a curse in disguise. It opened me up to all different kinds of music, and it opened me up to be a lot more diverse. But I know so much about past music that it's like I'll play something, I'll go, oh, that sounds like, and it'd be some song that no one would even fucking know. So
Yeah.
I fucked myself there. Anyway.
Well, everything's got to come from somewhere, and everyone's been influenced by stuff.
Well, it's like my dad says, there's only 12 notes, and there's only so many ways of playing them.
Yeah.
And that pretty much sums it up.
And then you put only a few plots to. Actually, someone once said to me, there's only really kind of
5 plots, isn't it?
You can narrow it down right to the sort of.
Yeah, I've heard that too. There's something like five plots. Yeah.
What you want and what you get. That's sort of.
I mean, what's life? What's the plot of life? Basically love and attention, avoidance of pain.
Yeah.
It's pretty much what life comes down to. I eat so I won't get hungry, and I find someone so I won't be not loved, and there you go.
Down to the animal. And what really sort of attracts you to songwriting then? Is it very much centralised on personal experiences, or does it?
It's becoming more so that before I was.
So I wonder. I mean, the singer in our band is just taken from personal experience. It's not much, but he tended to centralise everything on his relationships, and it's freaky actually. Just realising he was singing about all these people that we knew, and I was,
Yeah. I'd say I probably have a much more universally tied viewpoint, or I'm not just writing about me, but I'm trying to comment about. There's basic truths in life, and things ring true to everyone, and.
Do you find yourself drawing on drugs or bad experiences to get like emotions that you want to?
Drugs can definitely help.
Yeah.
Just kind of pop the head open every once in a while.
Gives you different perspectives. I know that's enough, but slightly.
No, but I think drugs can be really good to lend a certain amount of. It's very, very dangerous, but they lend a certain amount of objectivity to your life. You can let go of your ego for a little while, and you can step back and realize how fucked up you really are, and see, it's amazing how. I mean, just this is personal, but the older I get, the more it's like I find myself getting conservative in a very natural kind of way.
Yeah, I found that about my parents. We used to live abroad, and they came back from Hong Kong, and it was like, you see this really scary change in me. But I
think it's just a natural.
Just when you calm down and you realise that you haven't got to do something, you haven't got to impress a certain amount of people.
Yeah, you stop,
Relaxation.
When I was 19, I looked in the mirror like every fleeting second, and then you get older and it's like, well,
Go get the mirror yesterday.
Well, and you start thinking about cutting off all your hair.
No, that's just it. I mean, it's kind of sad in a way to be kind of squashing ideals, but then again,
well,
do you see yourself in a suit and tie?
Well, no, but with me, it's just been. I don't really feel like I ever had a proper childhood, and in some retarded way, this post-adolescence has been somewhat of a reliving of my childhood. But at the same time, I'm getting older, and my mind and my body can't respond in some ways that as much as it used to. And I mean, like right now, I'm a complete physical wreck. I have bruises like you wouldn't believe from diving in the crowds. I literally got my arm ripped off. I had to call a doctor, and it's just like ridiculous. And I just, everywhere there's bruises and cuts, and I have to go to all these doctors because my wrists are fucked up. And
there's a limit to how much you can do that, yeah.
And just, you start.
Did you move around a lot when you were younger then?
No, not really. Not really. But there was a certain transience because my father was a musician. He was always gone. And my mother was a stewardess, and she was always gone. Mm-hmm. So even though we weren't moving, there was never any kind of solidity. And it's really that kind of nomadic feeling has definitely followed me around to this point. Even though I have an apartment and everything, I don't feel at home. I refuse to accept any place as my home.
I know. I feel kind of, because I've moved around sort of my childhood, I really can't accept that anywhere's sort of somewhere to settle down or anywhere's home. It's really odd feeling.
I think it's really an essential thing. Yeah. That's kind of weird because
but then you get a lot of a sort of more worldly perspective, and there are advantages. You kind of see some people like really have the blinkers on, they're really narrow-minded.
Well, you understand. It's like there's a good and bad to everything. I mean, there's a freedom that you can attain by having like a career like this where you have money enough to travel and do things, but you lose something equally as valuable as sitting in your backyard and playing with a dog.
Yeah.
There's a validity to everything, and this is kind of going backwards, but that's where I think drugs in some ways have helped me kind of gain a more universal perspective and realize that what's right for one person isn't right for another. And that's what's been really hard with me to deal with specific criticisms about the band, because
how do you differ then as a band? I mean, how does the rest of the band sort of around you make it some kind of family or
that's a really difficult question at this point. I would use the word family, but like a family, what those people really mean and what their true roles in life really begin to blur, because you so accept them into your existence and they become such a part that
you don't focus on those people anymore.
There's like no true definition as to what you feel about them, and you really start to lose perspective. And I think with us more than anything, the band's at moments completely lost perspective about what this is all about and why we're doing it and why we even bother.
Is that just too much touring now? You sort of take it, because sometimes you can get overtired without realising you need to sort of have a bit of relaxation and come back to it.
No, I think it's also it's a choice between like, okay, I mean, like my wrist is completely fucked up. If I went to a doctor and the doctor said, you're going to have surgery on your wrist, or your wrist is going to be really fucked up when you get older, and you'll have to not play for 6 months, I would choose not to have surgery.
Because it means so much, yeah.
Because I would rather live like a fucking maniac for 5 years and then fuck the rest of my life, because that's just the way that I feel.
Because you're young for a certain amount of time. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, it's true.
A lot of the older, so few older rock stars have any respect in music.
I feel I've wasted so many years. Just wasted so many years of my life already. Just fucking off.
No, I mean, then again, there's something people like Nick Cave are still going strong, and he's some kind of guru with it.
Well, but I also, sometimes with people like that, I really question. I mean, if there's talent, the talent comes through. But it's hard for me to deal with people who are not like pushing themselves to that limit. Like someone like Tom Waits to me is someone who consistently pushes himself to an absolute artistic limit.
Yeah.
Someone like Andrew Eldritch,
it's that's when
what brilliance did exist is long lost in some haze.
How much do you really attach to image? I was going to sort of ask you about the image thing, because so many bands rely on their image so solely for about maybe 5 years, and then when fashions change, they're chucked the sheet.
Well, from a completely, I don't mean to sound so clinical and calculating, but from a completely business perspective, bands that have a very specific image are do better.
Yeah.
Because, and I mean, there are exceptions, of bands that don't have any image and manage to sell lots of records. But for the most part, when it comes to rock or music, people like to attach the music and the moment and the image, and it all kind of comes together in some kind of sick, makes sense.
Some kind of glamour.
Duran Duran is a perfect example,
I remember Dave when it.
But people have asked us about our image, and we just laugh because the image of the band is just the image of the people.
Yeah.
We are what we are.
It's funny that there's so much of the image has not really changed from the 60s. There's so much of the clothes. I'm just talking about clothes, really, perhaps.
No, it's true.
It's sort of come back. I think people are looking for some kind of punk thing coming back in Britain, and it's just like
it's not going to happen.
Not in the political climate either. I don't think so.
So people keep thinking that the musical revolution or whatever that's going on now is some reaction against an establishment. It's exactly the opposite. It's a reaction against the way that people feel. It's not an us versus them attitude. It's an us versus us. People are completely uncomfortable with their person and their lives, and they're unhappy.
Because a lot of people aren't as politically minded as they were a few years ago. People, they were more concentrated.
At least not in a specific, They want change, but they don't. People are so. America's a perfect example. People are so just burnt out by the political process, and you just hear the same things over and over.
I keep thinking in terms of Britain.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. How do you find, like, compared to your American and British following, how they differ?
I don't know. It's hard for me to say. The reaction seems the same, but I seem to understand it much better when we're in America, but because I'm not so far removed from that same kind of sentiments. I don't understand what drives, the 16-year-old British teenager. Where I understand what drives us.
British Reserve and all that kind of. But what kind of fan mail or fans do you get? Do you get any really weird requests? Or?
Get some pretty weird. People writing from insane asylums.
Really?
Darcy gets all sorts of strange mail because she's a girl.
Yeah.
I love you. I get weird shit like, 14-year-old girls writing me poetry, and girls sending me, pictures, and they're modeling pictures.
Oh God. Do you ever respond to any of the letters? Or?
I do sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly because I just want to. People build this thing, I did it when I was young. And they build somebody that they listen to or see up into some superhuman. And sometimes I just try and write and shove it, and then I'm just as, and I think that a little bit of humility and a little bit of humanity when it comes to things like that. I think that's a lot more inspirational.
Yeah.
I meet people and they say, "I can't believe you're so nice." It's like,
what would you expect?
I know but see, some people have in their mind that they have a preconceived notion of what someone they have this rock star thing.
Yeah, a lot of people have the idea that when bands get successful, they'll get really complacent and really.
No, they do.
I suppose some do.
We have our moments.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We're not even that successful. I can't imagine what drives someone like, REM or somebody like that. You've got everything you ever wanted. You've got gold records, money, cars.
So what do you do now?
I guess hopefully at that point then it just becomes a purely artistic endeavor.
Yeah. What was your attitude towards labels? Some bands are so adamant that they'll stick with small labels, independent labels.
My attitude has always been what's ever best for us.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't care who. Perfect example is, we're signed to Virgin worldwide, and we're on Hut in the UK.
Do you read much? I was wondering if you had any literary influences.
I read a lot when I'm home. William Burroughs is definitely my main.
Do you take any of the stuff from the books you read and put into songs? Or
No.
the ideas?
No.
No.
I mean, it goes back to the same idea. There's just certain things that to me make sense, and a lot of times all I'm doing is reconfirming what I already believe in. There's not many new ideas, you know. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing to talk about. I don't know.
Do the rest of the band write the songs or contribute? Is it just you?
Not really.
Does the songwriting?
Very little. I mean, even right now, there's two things that we're playing that James. It'll be something along the lines of like James will come up with a part and then I'll turn it into a song or something. The songs in the end usually are not.
Do you associate much with them? Or do you hang around much with them?
Yeah, you can't help but not to. There's just so much shit you gotta do, and we practice. We've gone to like practicing almost every day.
Yeah.
So we see each other almost every day.
What about the rest of the American? I don't know. I don't like using the word grunge, but kind of a lot of the sub-poppy bands. Do you see much of them? Or do you?
No.
Pretty keep being much. You imagine this whole circuit of.
You get to know people, you know.
Yeah.
And then when they come to town, you go see them. Say hi.
Cool.
We know, like you know Ted. We know Afghan Wigs. You know Nirvana. We know. There's tons of bands you know. You go see them. You know.
Yeah, I spoke to Nirvana at Reading, and it was really sad to hear Kurt go on about how Courtney was really slated like Yoko Ono in the 90s.
Yeah, but she's also set herself up for that.
Yeah. So.
I mean, I went out with Courtney. I know her very well. She's put herself in this. The shame of it to me is just that she's an immensely talented person.
And she should just get out there and carry. I remember reading the reviews, and they were whole getting to this kind of peak, and they just carried on.
What's on the first whole album? She'll if she ever makes another album, she'll put that one into the dust. She has that much talent.
Yeah,
and she's really like her own kind of genius in a strange kind of way. But the thing is she set herself up in this position. She's signed to Geffen, which is Nirvana's label, so everyone's going to perceive that as that.
I've got the editor in the office going, "Oh yeah, Courtney, she's a bit of a gold digger. She's gone to Geffen."
And that's what everyone's going to. Even if those things aren't true,
it's what it looks like,
And it's guilt by association, unfortunately. And I just really think the shame of it all is she's put herself in this position, and she said these ridiculously stupid things that she never should have admitted to in public. And she's put herself in a position of like no win. People won't let her win. They'll always try to bring her down, and she's given them ammunition to do that.
I mean, the press is there to either sort of you can manipulate them to a certain extent, but I mean that when you want to publicise yourself, you can either kind of do it well or.
Well, when you admit to fucking shooting smack when you're pregnant, and that's people aren't going to let you forget that.
Yeah.
And some of the movements in America that have a lot of strength and power, especially on an artistic level, like feminist movement, they're not going to want anything to do with her. I think it's an awful, terrible shame. I really do, because ultimately the biggest sacrifice of it all is going to be the art and the music that she could make, and she
sacrificing that is just too bad. Yeah, that's a shame. I wondered if you guys had any time to get away. What kind of holiday would be your ideal sort of holidays?
I mean,
do you just sort of
I can't. I don't go anywhere. My brain is, no matter where I go, my head
totally
is
centered on,
not centered. It's you're just born fucked, and you'll always be fucked. It's the way I
Do you ever
feel.
fancy a bit of travelling though? Kind of, sort of travelling by yourself with a rucksack somewhere, and sort of bumming off.
I think about it.
I have a sort of, ambition to do that at some point, but it's like, it's like a year out of your life, and I can't imagine this year yet for a long time.
I'm scared to be alone.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah, to be honest, I like a lot of peace and quiet sometimes, but without people around me. Cause it's not
I really enjoy peace and quiet when I know somebody's in the next room.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. It's really good sitting in places like cafes, not pubs, but cafes where you know everyone's around you, but you can just
Everything about life makes me lonely. even playing gigs.
Well, what with all those fans though, appreciating.
It doesn't make any difference.
I suppose a lot of performers go through that kind of.
It doesn't.
They
change.
don't know you. It's a very impersonal thing to be playing in front of them.
No, I don't feel that way, but I just it doesn't really change the way that I feel about myself.
Find yourself closer to your family though, to your parents now or not?
No, not really. I'm a man without. I actually even say man. I'm a boy without faith, religion, hope.
Oh no, sounds drastic.
Sure.
What do you ever envision a family for yourself in the future? I mean, I suppose that could change things.
I don't know why anyone would wanna. I'm starting to talk doomful, but I just don't know why anybody would want to share this life. This is an awful life to live.
I suppose fellow musicians will be used to it.
Well, I tried that one, but she married someone famous. So.
Oh no. Well, I mean, maybe she wasn't worth it then anyway. She's fucking up her own life then. How much do you dwell on relationships? Do they sort of really alter your life, or do they?
Yeah, I think I don't. Picking fruit from the trees is not living. It's the interaction of people. I think conversation is the ultimate expression in life. I mean, you can create art, you can do permanent things, but ultimately what will change you the most and what will have the most effect on you is just what goes on every day.
Yeah. Do you feel like really uncertain about the future? Or?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Not so much. I don't doubt my ability, and I don't doubt my.
How does it seem now? Because just from like a personal thing, I just feel really, really uncertain about what's going. I would love to just go and continue. I don't have enough faith in journalism really. It's too much of a shark's pool. But then again, all the acting and the stage design.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you started out as a band, was that more scary, or kind of, do you feel more confident then than now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Best way I can explain it is when you don't have anything, you deal with the concept of just trying to have something, and then you work and you work and you work till. And you see this kind of finite point of like, okay, I can achieve that.
Yeah. If you always sort of got what you want, got where you wanted eventually. Yeah.
But I don't want this to sound pompous in any way. But at some point you pass a line and you realize that the possibilities and the opportunities are endless. That you could pretty much go as far as you want to go. You realize that you have something that will always be present. I mean, that does not go away. There's a quality or something that's. So it becomes the game doesn't become just creating. The game becomes how good, how far
you can stretch.
How
so
big.
If you talk about talent then, how do you know that? How do you have the confidence to know that you can sing? You taught to sing, or do you just sort of just?
No, I taught myself how to sing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a different kind of confidence. It's not confidence that most people would understand. I attribute it almost to like a spiritual thing. You kind of peer in and you see what God has given you, and you realize the limitations and the possibilities that you do have. And I feel that like I've been given some really tremendous gifts, and I'm such a fuck up that it's the only thing that's keeping me from getting at them.
You don't seem to be doing too badly at the moment. It's got some good stuff out there. I really couldn't. It's funny. I really couldn't compare you to any current band at the moment. It's very sort of indie music style that is doing well in the midst of so much attention on a certain grunge aspect.
I believe that we're just, we're like a horse that runs on the outside. That's on.
So I know this. You can yell at me now, but I see something of what you talk about. Something similar to the Doors. I don't know if anyone's ever mentioned that.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that Jim Morrison came out with was very sort of philosophical in the same kind of.
I could relate to that in the most basic of ways.
Yeah.
It's the same idea that,
He was
there's the play that you think is going on, and then there's the real play. It's like, when I watch a puppet show, I don't watch the puppets. I try to see who's holding the strings.
Yeah.
That's the way that I feel, and that's what life is about. It's not about what you see. It's what. I know there's a subtext and something hidden with just about everything.
Yeah, people have a lot of masks when they're.
It's like when you meet someone new. What goes on, the way they behave with you may have nothing to do with you. You're just another.
I always find it difficult sometimes to interview people because you're talking to someone and sort of, you're not connecting on any normal kind of level as you do with friends or family. It took me a while to get.
It's somewhat of an artificial thing.
I mean, it was very difficult to actually hold any credibility of actually interviewing people until I realised that, well, to a certain extent, it's all part of the business of publicity, and to sing you need to be a band, bands need publicity.
But I try not to think of it like that.
Yeah, it gets kind of cold if you do analyse it. I don't know.
Oh, you end up like him, fat and dead.
But he was so dark, but
I don't think he was that dark.
Reading stuff on him, well, people really underrated him.
Well, he also didn't really. I don't think he really fulfilled his artistic promise in the end.
Because
the first Doors album is really outstanding, and then the vision after that was really really not as strong.
I mean, the stuff he did at film school worked with some really. I think at that stage he was still. Yeah, there were some influential people who later go on to.
I mean.
Well, the Nietzsche stuff he wrote.
But sometimes I tell my friends, it's like once you figure out the game, you can't help but it changes you or something, and that's what I feel like. I feel
cynical.
I don't know if it makes you more cynical. As long from the time you're born till you're 18 years old or whatever, you're made to believe, and not necessarily under false pretenses, that there's a construct to society and a way of doing things and a way to live. Right.
Yeah.
And slowly but surely, some people just fucking pop off and go off where they don't care. Me, it's been something I've encroached inch by inch. It's taken me a long time. I mean, the first thing was like, okay, my hair and the way I dress. But deep down, I didn't really. It's not that I didn't believe in an alternative lifestyle, but I truly wasn't living my own vision of my life.
Yeah. So you have something you're sort of working. You're still working towards.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I used to think of. The younger version of me would think of someone who was like a junkie as like an idiot, and the mentally ill as like somehow subpar. And then as I've gotten older, I've realized that people who let themselves go are only really responding to the voices that everyone hears. And once you strip down the barriers and the chains that really hold you to this idea of a conception of our life, this proper moralistic way, then
everyone's mad at heart.
Everyone really changes.
We used to talk about madness, yeah. But it's such a fine line between.
I don't know if I'm a whore because I was born a whore or because I just don't believe in morality, or it's like.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where it begins and ends, but
who's got right to say? Who's got the authority to say this is right, this is wrong? And did you say you were religious or not? Or did you meditate or anything like that? Actively?
I tried to meditate, but I just don't have the patience.
You've got to sit there for kind of a long time.
yeah. It's like my mind is. And that's definitely helps. My way of meditating is like taking a walk.
Yeah.
And I count to 4 over and over, and sooner or later my mind kind of clears. I've been doing this exercise where you get up in the morning and you write 3 pages no matter what it's about. I just write "I'm a loser" 100 times. Or whatever.
God.
The idea is to drain your head of like whatever crap. Whatever.
I tend to do that. Well, I used to write a really extensive diary every night, and to be honest, I found that I used to get to analysing things so much that. I kind of saw too much into situations and found that when I stopped writing it, I took things on a more surface level, but so just kind of existed from day to day without. I don't know which is worse, to be honest, without thinking about things too much or not enough.
I see it as like the last attempt at like holding on to sanity. You get to the point where your own monsters in your head are so immense that you're completely immobile, you can't do anything.
Yeah.
And when you're an artist, if you can't work, then you are nothing.
Feeling like really touching rock bottom and sort of getting that. Yeah. It's funny though, so many people I think do go through that sort of thing. But it's funny how you can be sort of completely down at one minute and then be really high the next. Just when somebody can say something or you sort of go outside and do something different.
That's me.
Yeah.
I'm painting a pathetic picture of myself.
I think that a lot of people kind of do that. I used to get really down sort of 14, 15. So I moved to another school and really couldn't be bothered to make any friends again. Yeah, it's amazing how low you get. I think other people have, talking to friends, and you tend to talk about this quite a few years on. Other people do the same thing.
Yeah, it's like this.
I think as long as you have a dog, you're alright. They're cool.
No, don't get a cat. Cats don't make you feel any better.
Well, have you got a cat?
Where have I got a cat? At home.
Oh.
See? You need to do laundry. If you don't do laundry, you don't smell good. If you don't smell good, you definitely don't feel good.
I know, because we had a really useless washing machine last year, and washing things in the bath after a few months just becomes so much of a hassle. You stop washing it.
Well, I've been in Europe for a month and I haven't done one laundry load.
It's the worst
so
thing.
Lord knows where this shirt's been, but it could crawl on its own 2 legs.
It's when it stands up by itself.
That's right.
That's smart.
But no one can smell you when you're on stage.
You've got a right to be sweating then anyway. Do you get a lot of adrenaline going before the gigs? Or?
Sometimes. It's been hard in this tour just because I don't feel like we're here for any reason except just to sell more records. It's not necessarily the best feeling to have.
How long are you going to be touring?
This is it.
The last gig?
Yeah, this is probably our last gig of 1992.
Oh, that's cool.
I need to use that to motivate myself.
Yeah, so...
Have to write that one down.
Back into the studio?
Yeah. Make that second album.
What do you prefer, being in the studio or being in public?
Sleeping?
Yeah, sleeping's good. That would be nice.
That's number 1.
When I got back from Edinburgh just...
Then there's laying down, that's number 2.
Yeah. And what, writing? Do you find it frustrating to sit and write? Or does it...
It's either or. It's really exhilarating or it's horrible.
Yeah.
have to have a peace, your mind has to be not at rest, because things will motivate you, but you have to have some sense of order in your head. If you're schizophrenic, it's just
kind of difficult, really. Yeah. You're writing articles, is this right?
I did this really good exercise with this writing thing that I've been doing. They tell you to write 10 positive things about yourself, and then also write down whatever comes into your head. So, you write, I, William Corgan, am a great artist. And the first thing that pops in your head is like,
good.
You're terrible, you're awful, you're rotten, you suck.
But there's got to be good with the bad,
No, but I'm saying those voices are crippling.
Forget about them, okay? Because, I don't know, as long as you... I don't know, I have a lot of respect for artists because they're making a lot of other people happy. So you get nurses and doctors who do it sort of physically, and then you get people who do a lot of spiritual stuff.
Well, that's all fine and good, but ultimately they're just selfish people who want for themselves.
Yeah, but okay, whatever they want and feel like, they're still doing it. They're still producing music that makes people happy, whatever they do themselves.
I guess so.
Which is a good thing.
I wouldn't trust an artist as far as I could throw them.
What about actual painting and drawing and stuff? Do you do any of that?
I try. Music I can do, other things I can't. I feel stilted by knowing, You shouldn't think that way. It's the wrong way to think. Art is art, whether it's good or bad. Expression is... You should just worry about expressing and not worry about
how well you do it.
How well it's going to be received or how it stands up next to Salvador Dali.
Yeah, I'm reading these adverts and stuff, they're getting into degrees in rock and roll and stuff. And that just seems really crazy. But I suppose it's going to happen eventually. Where do you see yourselves in, say, 30 years' time, or is that too scary? Or too kind of...
The band? Or me?
You, or I don't know, you, maybe the band, whatever.
Well, the band would be long gone. Me? That would make me 55 years old.
Wow.
I don't have a lot of confidence in my ability to live. At this point in my life, I'd say I'd be dead.
Well, don't do any overdoses.
No. I'm more a wrist slitter.
We used to have a teacher, we had this English teacher once, we were doing this kind of project on death or something, and she said, if you wanted to kill me, how would you kill me? The class killing a teacher. And I was like, oh, wow. So we all quickly decided in unison that she'd be thrown out the window. She was mad, it was weird. You had to write a story on killing a teacher.
Yeah, it's funny when you get really depressed, death kind of takes on a romantic
Yeah.
It's like, it's the equivalent of the Hawaiian getaway.
Yeah, they go on about death by drowning and it being the most hallucinogenic and easiest, but...
I don't know about that. I wouldn't care to hallucinate while dying.
Yeah. I was like that very quickly, very painlessly.
That's right.
A coward, basically.
If you could die in some act of passion, that would be my number one choice.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Do you believe in afterlife and things, or reincarnation or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely believe that there's a lot of stuff that goes on that we can't even begin to understand. But it's just, a lot of it's just beyond our conception.
Well, electric field and all that.
Who knows? Does it really matter? Not really. It's just an excuse to be good or bad. Some use it as an excuse to be good so they won't get punished later, and some use it as an excuse to be bad because it doesn't matter, they're coming back anyway.
As a dog.
I would like to come back as a turnip.
As a turnip? So that's pretty close to the
How's that? I
pumpkin idea.
can't top that.